Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day or evening, depending on when you're watching this. I'd like to discuss the Unit 3 discussion forum. My goal is to help you succeed in your discussion forums. First thing I did was over under Unit 3 discussion. You're going to find a new link, how to do discussion. So that's how to do the Unit 3 discussion. What question will we be addressing in Unit 3? Now let's look at it. We're going to be working with conditional formatting. When we work with it in the Unit 3 discussion forum, we've been asked to address two rules. Rule number one, top 10 items or bottom 10 items. We want to address both of those. The second rule, above average and below average. So those are your two rules. Now, in your assignment details, it shows this chart. This is only an example. Please do not use it. You need to select the type of data you would use the two conditional formatting rules. Now, when we start preparing Unit 3, we know we have two types of responses. We have a primary response, which must be 200 to 250 words. And then we must also respond to of our colleagues. And that each response should be between 50 to 100 words. The primary response is due by Thursday at 11:59 Central Time. Your two peer responses are due by Saturday at 11:59. Now, let's get back to the directions. We've talked about points 1 and 2. Let's look at number 3. What do we need to do? We need to address these three things in our discussion forum. Number 1, provide a detailed explanation of the type of data you would use conditional formatting for. Do not say you would use it for a gradebook. Do not use that example. Make it unique to you. Point number 2, discuss what it would look like after conditional formatting was applied to data. So what would that mean? That would mean you'd have to create some data, apply conditional formatting to it, and then describe it. Alternatively, you could attach an image, but you still must write at least 200 to 250 words. The image is not enough. And then number 3, why would this be helpful or beneficial to either you personally or to a business you either work for or want to create? So that's all the requirements for the primary response. But don't forget, we also must respond to at least 2 of your colleagues, and each response must be a minimum of 50 words. It's due by Saturday. Let's look at the grading rubric. Now, I put an arrow there because the grading rubric is rather long. So you need to scroll down to see the entire grading rubric. But let's start at the top. First thing I'll be looking for, did you state the two rules? Rule number 1, the top 10 items or bottom 10 items. Rule number 2, above average and below average. So just because it says or, please don't be mistaken by that. You have to use both the top 10 and the bottom 10. And in the second rule, you have to use both the above average and below average. And explain the type of data you could use the rules for. The next item, did you state the results of the two conditions? First condition would be the top 10 items or bottom 10 items. The second is the above average and below average. And did you explain a benefit or advantage of using conditional formatting? Let's go to the next item. Did they complete 2 substantial reply posts? Each response must be at least 50 words, and you have to have the replies submitted by Saturday. The next item, is the information presented logically? Is the post relevant to the provided spreadsheet? And finally, did you make any grammar, spelling, or punctuation? Now, before you submit your work, check your OV score, your simplicity score, your plagiarism score. Remember, it must be below 30. If it's 30 or above, I must report you to the Academic Review Board with plagiarism. I also must give you a 0 for the Unit 3 discussion and hide any information you provided. So please be careful. Points will be taken off if your primary response is less than 200 words and if your peer responses are less than 50. I also take off late points if you don't submit your work by the due dates, and we have 2. We have the due date for the primary response, and we have the due date for when we have to respond to it. I've showed you this a couple of times. The originality verification. You see the steps to get to it. Last week, somebody gave me, I believe it was 72% plagiarism. Well, that's not fair. You need to be original. If you're not original, I have to report you and hide it. My goal is to be fair to all students. I know you take time to complete your discussion forms. I want you to get rewarded. All right, let's look at the practice. How do we apply conditional formatting? You need to go to the Home tab and find conditional formatting. On the Home tab, we go to conditional formatting. If you look, there's a list arrow, so click on that. It gives you different types of conditional formatting we could use. It also allows you to build new tools, clear your rules, and manage your rules. But the one we want to focus on is right there by the top bottom rules. Remember, we have to address the top 10 items, the bottom 10 items, the above average, and the below average. We have to address all of those. Now, on this practice, I showed you where the top 3 was, the bottom 2, the above average, and the below average. I also entered the average of these scores, and I added the average score for those. Did you have to do that? No, you didn't. It was just something that I could verify that the right items were being selected. So let's go over to January. First thing we need to do is to select the data. Then we need to go to conditional formatting. Remember, it's on the Home tab and use your list arrow. We want the top 3 right there. So conditional formatting, top bottom rules, top 10. Now we know we don't have 10, so I'm going to change this value to 2. we want the top 2 or the top 3. And it also gives you a choice. If you click on this list arrow, you can see the different colors you could choose from. You can also see that you have a custom format. In other words, you can make it look anything you want it to. But we're going to stay with the default for now. All we have to do now is say open. And now, if you look, conditional formatting has been applied to the top 3. Now, it is possible to apply multiple rules on the same data. For example, I can select this, I can go to conditional formatting, I can go here, and I can come down to the bottom 10 items. Well, we know we don't have 10 items, so I'm going to switch it to 1. And I don't want it the same color as the top, so now I have to use my list arrow and select a different color. Now I have the bottom and I have the top 3. Let's go to February. Select your data, go to conditional formatting, top bottom rules, bottom 10 items. Again, we don't have 10, so let's make it 2. We can keep the red and we can say, okay, now we have the bottom 2. Let's select the data again, go to conditional formatting, top bottom. This time we want the top 10 items. Of course, we don't have 10 items, so we'll change the number. And we'll change the color. Just don't want it to be the same color. Let's go green fill. And okay. All right. So for February, we can see the bottom 2 and the top 1. Let's go to March. We select the data. This time we're going to above average. So go to conditional formatting, go to top bottom. We want above average. And say okay. And what did it do? It highlighted 3. Why? Because all 3 are greater than our average. Let's go to April. We want below average. So we're going to select. We're going to go back to conditional formatting. Top bottom. We want below average. And say, okay, how many are below 10,907? You can see it's 3. So that's how you apply conditional formatting. And that pretty well covers it. We did what we were supposed to watch for when we answer it. We looked at our grading rubric. I encouraged you to be careful with your originality. And we practiced. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Your success is very important to me. Thank you, everybody.